Douglas County Board of County Commissioners 4 o'clock business work session for Wednesday, November 29th. Today, we are hearing from Emergency Management to review proposed changes to the Douglas County Code as it pertains to open burning in unincorporated areas. As with all of our work sessions, we do not take public comment because we aren't taking any action. But if you do want to provide public comment, we welcome you at our 5:30 business meeting, which is right after this, to provide your public comment. This item is actually on our regular agenda later today, so you can provide it during the regular agenda time. And with that, I'll turn it over to Robert Bernicki, who will walk us through the agenda item.
Thank you. So we appreciate you spending some time with us to talk through the resolution, the proposed resolution. And we're here because over several years of input from residents, fire, emergency management observations about ways to make this burning process easier and more transparent. So, if you look at the outline and you want to follow along, this resolution was brought out in 2015. It was revised in 2017, and we're looking to do a revision today. One purpose of the review and revision today would be so that we could be more generalized in the resolution and code, and then be more specific in a policy that'll be newly created. And I'll provide you with a copy of that here when we start talking about it. It's doing some correcting, it's doing some separating, it's doing some renumbering, a lot of just minutia, and then it will update, the actual resolution will update the county code, Chapter 6 Fire Safety. So that's the purpose of it, and why we're here talking about it. And I will tell you that some of our team is here, that we have had a team for several months, like maybe last spring we started this, or even before. So, we have the Fire Chiefs Association, some fire chiefs are here today as well, ECC, District Attorney's Office, GIS, IT both, and then Zoning and Codes gave us some input. With that, I would say that what we'll do is, you've had an opportunity to see this document over the last week, and then we've also, we'll talk about one change since you've seen that, one slight revision that came to us late with some feedback just yesterday. So we'll talk through that as well. What I'd like to do is go through some of these changes and allow you to ask questions and have a conversation about any concerns or comments. And I'm going to ask Jillian to lead the review of the sections.
And Commission, feel free to stop me at any point. Really what we did in this highlight section, for those that are looking to do a one-to-one comparison, just to help walk through what that looks like, because the resolution does look very different than the 2017 version. Although there aren't a lot of large changes, there are some small changes that we'll highlight. Just for the one-to-one that was previously in Article 1, Sections 1 through 4, we shifted these and actually put them in the sections where they belonged. So no real changes there, but if you're looking at the old resolution, it's not there any longer. There was also a definitions part. Legal put that under its own section, so that's Section 101. And then from this point on, a lot of things got renumbered. In Section 6102, we did do some updating of definitions. So we were getting a lot of questions, and I think the fire departments as well, as to what's recreational, what's residential, what's ag burning. So we tried to separate those out and make it a little easier to understand. What you can or can't burn isn't changing. It's just that we've explained it a little bit better. Additionally, what we got from zoning and codes, we used a lot of the state KAR language. And in the section, you'll note it's in italics. From zoning, we changed some of that language to match what's already in the county code. So nothing super different, but they talk about residential burning, they talk about parcels and non-hazardous household waste. So that's just a link up to what's already in the code so that there's no conflicts in there. And then I guess adjusted the name of KDHE approved open burning. That used to be construction open burning. So we just labeled that to make it very, very simple.
Can
6103.
I stop you
Oh,
one
yeah,
second?
go
I
ahead.
just want to note that these two items are the changes that came about yesterday, that we received comment from codes as well as the county attorney. So that's what you see in italics there.
And there'll be one more section that we'll note a little bit later. Thank you. 6103, agricultural burning is slightly different in the rules and regulations than residential KDHE. So we wanted to take that section out, so it was very specific. That was one place where we got a lot of questions. So we took out agricultural open burning, and it's got its own section with rules and regulations of what has to be done for those that want to do agricultural burning. In 103, we did add a fourth section in there that's just an agreement to comply with the stated conditions for open burning. That wasn't in there before, but we've gone ahead and just put that in there as a part of the agreement. When an individual calls or fills in the online form, they agree to follow the rules. And then we did add one change. As we revised the general burning regulations to include an age minimum. So you have to be at least 18 to be a responsible party for a particular fire in a burning operation. So that is the one big change there. 6104 is now a standalone for ag burning. We just clarified exactly, it says what you have to do, the rules you have to follow. For ag burning, you are allowed to do more evening and after sunset burning, and that was not as clear in the 2017 version, so we clarified it here. 6105, this is another place where we made some small changes in. There is a tweak and an edit to the one that was previously done. So we removed some specific criteria for issuing a burn ban. We put that in the policy. The products that we use are issued by the National Weather Service, and sometimes those change. And so we took out the criteria, which has not changed. We're still using the exact same criteria as we were before, but we just took that language out and we put it in the policy. So if the rangeland fire danger, that product is no longer available, or there is a better product that allows for safer burning and more intentional safety aspects, that we can make some of those changes. So that's in the policy, so we did pull that, but not changing any of the criteria. And then we also revised for this must be in compliance with the KAR 2819-648. And I think this was a place, did we make any additional changes there? Okay. So that's 6105. As you kind of go through this, the rest of these, whoops, a lot of renumbering. 107, we changed a little bit, and now it just says, basically, if there's a burn ban, here are the things that are exempted from that. So recreational, so cooking in those campfires, as long as they're small and in contained, self-contained burning apparatus, which is described in the definition section, just says that they're exempt from that, which they were before, but it was really hard to understand previously. And then there's one final section. So a new section 3, which says the county administrator or his or her designee will establish and maintain the Douglas County open burning policies and procedures in accordance with the home rule resolution. So that was the policy that Robert talked about earlier. And that's where we've really gone in and expanded, tried to organize things. And that's the document that we'll be able, that'll be what's on, kind of filled in on the website. And that's where we'll be able to do, FAQs. We'll be able to expand as we get more questions. And that'll be that living document that'll be a little bit easier to update, and it'll make it a little more nimble. So if we need to make changes. So that, and I'll pause there. There's still some other things that we'll talk about that are coming, new in 2023, but I just want to pause there and make sure there aren't any questions in kind of the general update of the resolution itself.
I will have some questions, but those can hold until you're done with your presentation.
Perfect. New in 2023, we've talked about the policy, which we'll get a copy of that. Really what this does is it gets the criteria for issuing the burn bans, which didn't change. We'll still follow the exact same process as we have been since 2017. It does now include a process if we have to issue a burn ban in the middle of the day. So in the morning, we said, yes, burning is fine. And then based on the criteria in the resolution that says when we can issue a burn ban. So if conditions change or we have resource limitations, so some of those days when the fire departments are responding to a lot of fires and our resources are starting to be constrained, we can also, the chiefs can make that request to issue a burn ban. We now have a standard process for what that will look like, so that all of the jurisdictions are doing the same things. So that's in there. It also includes a process for enforcement. Not that this hasn't been able to be enforced before, but this now outlines this a more standard process that it's easier to educate the community on what that's going to look like. So it's kind of a three-step approach that does include education, and additional education and working with folks to try to make sure that they understand what the rules are. But then it does increase in that second or third, in which paperwork can be put together and an affidavit can be filed to the district attorney's office. But now we've got really good steps to educate if folks aren't following the rules or just aren't aware of the rules, to make sure that we can make that process as clear as possible. And then what's coming, what's on the horizon, in this process, we will be opening up the Northeast Kansas Regional Notification System, so Everbridge. If folks are signed up, they may be getting severe weather alerts from that. We'll be opening up that so individuals in the community can sign up to receive burn ban notifications. So it's an internal process right now. Once we get all of this in place, we'll actually start opening that up, and that'll be an opportunity so folks will know you can't burn today, or if we issue one midday, to allow for additional opportunities on top of our social media and other things that we're using. And then GIS has also created for us an open burning form. There have been some requests to be able to go online and fill out a request to do the burn instead of calling. And sometimes early in the mornings, phone lines may be busy. They're calling into the 911 dispatch center. So they're still going to get the information. It's still going to be on one map. Dispatch is going to follow the same process. They'll get a file, they'll enter everything. So it'll still be one place they're looking to get all those burns, but individuals will be able to go online and submit those. And it will include all the rules. The burn hotline will still be available. Folks can still call and log their burn verbally with dispatch if that's their preference, but they'll also have the online form. A number of jurisdictions around us have that. So adding that is another opportunity and ease for folks to be able to get in there and log that burn. If everything is approved, then there'll be a large education campaign so that folks know any of the changes here, where to get the information, what it's going to look like, talking about the form, where they can go to find that. So there'll be a large campaign there once everything is in place. And then, of course, the chiefs, which can jump in at any point, will also spend a lot of time with their jurisdictions, again, helping everybody understand what's going on, any changes, how that looks, making sure they know what the burn hotline is, and then doing education while they're out.
I'll just add that this policy, that the draft you see in front of you, we won't be looking for approval from you. That'll be through Sarah, administration-wise, but we wanted you to see it and take a look at it. And the idea would be that anybody that wanted to know about burning in Douglas County in the unincorporated areas could have one place to go. So if you think about the way it is today, there's information in the resolution, there's information in the code which mirrors the resolution, but we reference KDHE, we reference KARs, we're sending people to these places where ideally they can come to this policy, and this will have everything the resolution has. It will have everything that the code has, the KDHE, all those different entities will all be there. So there's no reason to go and have to look at the legal and try to decipher what this legal sentence says. So that's hopefully where we're headed with the policy.
Will emergency communications also be kind of part of that education piece? You call in, you log your burn, and they maybe will say actually that that residential burn or that campfire or something doesn't require you to call in, just kind of that education piece. And then we're not tying up phone lines for things that maybe aren't regulated unless there's a true burn ban anyway.
Yes, we can provide that service. Typically, we don't mind logging any burn into the system because that just gives us more information. So regardless if it's something that they don't think that might need to be called in, we don't mind if they actually call it anyway.
It's good to know. It's also that they say a call back when it's out, which some fires are out right away, some fires it's a long time later. And if you're camping for a couple of nights, the response is, well, you need to call in every single day that you're camping. And maybe they could say, you could call in every single day, but this isn't really a part of the policy that's regulated.
Correct. Yeah, we can do education to the citizens also.
Other questions?
I don't have any questions. Seems like we just moved a lot of things around and made some things clear, and I really appreciate that. But if other commissioners have questions.
I have a few. So under the 6102A, and it's agricultural open burning, and there are several purposes that are included there, which captures most of what happens. But we had in the paper not that long ago, there was a controlled burn for ecological purposes at the Baldwin Woods. And I don't think that is quite captured here. I just want to make sure that it isn't by default prohibited.
I don't think it would be because I think that's allowed, I believe, in the KAR as well, I think. Is that considered watershed? I'm not certain.
It's probably more considered habitat,
Okay.
or even future fire suppression to have a burn that goes through every once in a while through even wooded areas. So, and it probably just could be changed in terms of adding or ecological purposes or something like that in that section. And I'm not set that it has to change. Just want to make sure that by default we're not prohibiting something that does have value that people are going to come back and ask for. Okay. Also in that section, kind of at the end, it says, open burning of other materials is not allowed under this section, but it can be allowed with a conditional use permit. Is it worth putting that in there, or is that just redundant because it can be found elsewhere in code? Like some of the construction burning and such like that.
I suppose I don't have my computer in front of me with the full resolution to reference, but is there any reference to permitting, like any permitted uses or CUPs, TBUs? Okay. What section were you referencing again, Commissioner Willie?
I was in that same section. I think it's 6102A. It said if it's redundant, it doesn't need to be in there. I just a question of people coming to this code, being able to find what they need as soon as possible.
Right. Okay. We'll be sure to, if we haven't already in the policy, we'll make sure that that's clear.
So just generally, the 6-103, the open burning, and the 6-104, the agricultural open burning, and some of the rules are different between the two, and needfully so, I want to say. A couple that weren't under the agricultural one, it says open burning be conducted in accordance with KDHE rules and open burning section. Is that not needed under agricultural burning? And I'm at 6103B. 6103B.
I think I can answer this one. The way that it's interpreted is for 6103, those rules are specific, and then the KAR addresses agricultural burning in 648. And so that's what we pulled specifically were the language between those two sections. But I think that's the rules are slightly different. We did work with KDHE on that. to make sure that they didn't have to apply in both spaces for all of them. But we do specifically call out the 648 for ag burning, if that answers the question.
Yep, thank you. I know I'm just covering just a couple of things that came up. Okay, so 6103D, it's talking about the road safety and who to contact if there's likely to have smoke crossing the road. And I was just curious about township roads. Is that they should be contacting the township office, but townships don't typically do traffic safety necessarily. So should that be the sheriff's office? Just trying to be clear. So all of that, anything happening in the unincorporated area would be contacting the sheriff's office.
Yes, the sheriff's office, they can also do that through the communication center as well. So ECC, they could log that was a potential, and Tony can correct me if that's not a thing, but that could also be the part of the process to make sure that notification is made.
And not all burning will know if it's going to impact a local road. So maybe it's something that gets asked, I'm not sure. And in terms of airstrips, or I should say airport authorities, what about local airstrips, just on-farm airstrips? I don't think anyone would know who to contact if that were to be an issue. And I don't know that it's a big deal, but it could happen occasionally. It says E under the same section.
Commissioner, I believe under the airport for the agricultural, that would be under local authority. So if we put something in county code, but it doesn't specifically address, it's not specifically addressed in KAR, it's airport authority, which would be like Lawrence Municipal Airport. But local airports are not included into the KAR. So it'd have to be local law that would put that in there.
Does that mean they would contact the local fire department? I mean, nobody would necessarily have contact information for folks who own their own private airstrips.
Correct.
And neither would the fire department.
I mean, it seems like zoning and codes would be the only, I mean, if it's a permitted airstrip, that's a CUP, I believe, and I don't know how recently one has been permitted, but it seems that their office would be the only place at the county that has that information registered.
I'd say most of our fires, even agricultural fires, are likely to be small enough that if it's near the airstrip, they probably know already, or they're the neighbor, or they're involved, or something, or it's short duration. So it might not be an issue. I just was curious because I hadn't really seen airport mentioned as an issue. Okay, I think this is my last one. And this is 6-108 burn permits. And you're talking about what is permitted and what is permitted. And maybe it was in this section, or maybe this is just where I flagged it. Like what can happen during a burn ban. I just want to make sure that it allows for fire departments on an active scene to light back burns, even in even under a burn ban, that there might be a need for that.
Commissioner, just for clarification, do you mean for an active fire to light? Okay.
Yeah, I can let chiefs talk about that if they'd like to.
I think that if we go out on a call and somebody's burning and a back burn is necessary, we're just going to do it. We're not going to make any phone calls. We're just flat out going to do it to make it easier on us.
And that's what I figured too. I just want to make sure that that is spelled, that like the jurisdiction having authority there can use that as a tool if needed without needing to call it in, et cetera.
And that may be a place too where we can add that to the policy for clarification language that says, a response, necessary response actions taken by the jurisdictional fire department may be utilized for the safety and completion or slowdown of the fire, they will have much better language than what I just came up with. So, but I think that's a good place to, we can,
Yeah.
and that's really why we kind of brings into the policy piece of things, is that allows us to answer questions and really start to fill in and kind of fill out some of those places where there might be kind of one-offs or things that we didn't necessarily see or think, but still gives us some flexibility to address those things for up and coming. But that's when we can add to the policy.
And I just wanted to add that we haven't had a request like this, I mean, in the history of this resolution, as far as I know. Right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We haven't had an incident where somebody's asked for this burn permit during a burn ban. It's never happened. So just wanted to share that with you.
Those are the folks that don't ask for a permit.
I know, but it's here. It's spelled out.
I think this is a great piece of work and I'm really happy with it. And I was looking through particularly about like agricultural burning and when we do that and why, and like being able to burn at night or towards evening when the wind dies down and the humidity comes up, like that's a safer time. Just be able to see some of those things were already captured in here was really great. So thank you for letting me kind of poke through and ask a couple of just minor cleanup questions.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing this with us, and we will take a break and join everybody again at 5:30.